In order to find out what's going on in your community, go to your community blog, particularly the Central District News. And Tom Fucloro, who is the basically everything for the Central District News, is with us right here on Community Blog TV. I'm Stan Emerton. Tom, welcome back.
Thank you.
It's been about a month since we have been together, and as I've been reading the blog, there's lots of things going on always. And I just wonder, do you like continually lose weight because you have so much work to do?
I do forget to eat sometimes.
All right. Well, again, it's centraldistrictnews.com. I strongly encourage you to go to the blog and learn an awful lot about what's going on in the Central District, even if you don't live there, because there's some things that you may want to go see. Something that I felt like was very interesting. Have you used Seattle's new Yellow Page opt-out? It's rad. So why was this important for you to put in to the Central District News?
Well, I think it's Yellow Pages are one of those scourges of society that you know, we don't usually do something that's not specifically for the neighborhood, but it's a service that anyone in our neighborhood could have immediately signed on, that the city had just opened up and stopped getting Yellow Pages, theoretically. We'll see if they actually stop coming.
Yeah, I don't know if I've used Yellow Pages in 5 years, probably. And I mean, I used to, but times have changed.
Right. And, you know, I guess another part of it is, I don't understand why businesses would advertise in the Yellow Pages. It's not a very good, they're very expensive. I don't know if anyone will ever see your ad.
So your audience, your readers, are just the people in the Central District or people who you've talked to.
Right.
When they heard that the City of Seattle was offering an opt-out of Yellow Pages, what did they say?
Well, there was a lot of excitement about being able to do that, and that the city was finally getting on this because there's been so much conversation about it. We got a lot of clicks, you know, we could see from the blog to the opt-out website. So I know people were using it in the area, and hopefully we'll have way fewer Yellow Pages in the recycling bins.
So that's a service that you offered. You offered a link from the article in the Central District News to the opt-out, so right there. Oh, excellent. Excellent. So, and actually there it is. And you can't click on your television set, but you can go on centraldistrictnews.com, find it, and go and click and opt out. And then there's just today, there was I think some court news on this as well, where at least preliminarily the city's plan has been upheld. Right,
or at least the injunction's been stopped, or they're trying to get them to shut down the website immediately, and it's still running.
Now, strong community, clearly in the Central District that you've talked about in the past. Here is another article. The Jackson Place Community Council and Casa Latina volunteer to paint a Central District restaurant. So what's the circumstance here?
Well, it was a building that had a lot of tags, and supposedly gang tags, some of them from Rainier Beach groups. So the poster said, it was a community post from one of the people involved with the project.
Yeah, let's go actually right to the post itself. It said, the restaurant on 20th and Jackson has been a victim of a rash of gang tags recently. According to the Seattle Police Department, Bee Patrol on Jackson Street, the restaurant has received a lot of graffiti from Rainier Beach gang members. Any kind of connection there, or?
What I found interesting about that story was there's one part in it where the person who wrote it said they're talking to a muralist to see if maybe we can get someone with better art abilities to paint on it. And I was like, do you really want to paint a wall one solid color and then taunt graffiti artists? Not always the best strategy, because they will take that challenge if you give it to them. So we'll see how long it stays blue. Hopefully it's not tagged again, because poor business owners don't want to keep dealing with it, but don't taunt them.
Well, again, something that we've talked about is the importance of a local business and a small business right there in the community. It's so important to those people who live there that they wanted to come out and help the merchant. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, no, it was great.
So when there are people who are screaming and hollering and complaining about big businesses, the small business down the street is really your neighbor. Okay. Well, good deal. All right. At the same point in time, the Central District and in the blog this past month, a lot of things that weren't so fun to read about.
Right.
And so we got to go over some of them. A report of shots fired near 24th and Cherry. The update was that it was road rage. And here's what I found interesting, especially in light of the change of population. Let's go to the comments. And the victim's race. I know everybody is curious about the victim's race. Was the victim white, black, or other? And then there was a response saying, I saw the cops talking to a black lady and checking out, but her car and all of that stuff. And then here's somebody else who says, okay, this happens to me all the time in the CD, I am white. And let's go to this next click, Ed. Okay, I am white, and yes, each time it happens, it's some black folk who see someone they know and decide to get neighborly. So, okay. Is there racial tension right now in the Central District?
Of course.
Is it old versus young? Is it black versus white? What is it?
I don't know how much of it is really actualized and how much of it comes out more on the internet, I guess. And we had kind of several shootings, and they all seemed to be, well, one was potentially gang-related, so that's not, I mean, there's clearly a racial aspect to that, but that's not.
Right.
It was, from what I understand, it was all black people involved in that. And then, yeah, this whole situation was interesting. There were a couple of comments where it was kind of on the border of whether or not this was a productive conversation, like saying, oh, whenever I see cars stopped in the middle of the street, it's always a black person. I was like, I don't really know if that's a productive thing to say. And so, of course, there was a reaction to that. But yes, these tensions exist. But I don't know. I guess I wouldn't play up that it's
yeah, well, as the person in charge of the blog, because and the interesting thing to me was that people were willing to anonymously post racial feelings, let's put it that way. I'm not sure if they were willing to say them, you know, with their names on it. But my question is how far do you let it go yourself? I mean, or is there a time where, you know, hey, this is not going to be good, I got to stop this?
Yeah. We don't have a whole lot of tolerance for statements based on stereotype or that are truly, like, you know, racist. If someone says something and they are clearly just not educated about it and it's not too far, sometimes we'll let it stay because that's a conversation that should happen. And it's kind of hard where that line is, but there are things that, you know, throw out nasty words and stuff that immediately are just gone. Things that are completely based on, you know, just stereotypes and just trying to get people riled up and are not actually aiming for any productive conversation, those things go. That comment, I decided to leave because this person seems to actually be struggling with this, and whether I think what they said was based on stereotype, I think that maybe, and I think there was a conversation that happened that, I don't know if it solved anything, but it's just those conversations need to happen. I don't want to stop them completely, but, you know, there are certain things that, oh, well, you're not even trying to have a conversation, you're just trying to be racist.
Well, you know, it's interesting because, again, back during the most recent presidential campaign, there was a lot of discussion about the race discussion needs to happen in the United States. And right here through the community blog, you're letting it happen.
Right.
Okay. All right, well, let's go on, because not everything is tied to race. Some things are tied to something completely different. Here's a 911 call helps the cops nab an armed man at 21st and Cherry. And let's go to the click, because what we've got here is from your staff. Nice work, Neighborhood Watch and SPD. You surely saved someone from a scary moment. So good. This is kind of, it's not normal that I think that oftentimes there's praise for this kind of work coming from a newspaper or a news entity.
Right. Yeah, this story was interesting because, you know, it's not, when you think of Neighborhood Watch, you know, if you want to throw out the most dramatic example possible, it's like, I saw someone walking down the street with a gun. So, you know, I did my duty as Neighborhood Watch to call up the cops, and that person was arrested. And that seems to be what happened here. So it's like this, you know, kind of a perfect example of what can happen and how it can go right is if you see someone walking down their street with a gun, don't just hide, tell someone, tell the police and try to stop it. And so that's what I found interesting.
Okay, well, so in the same way that the residents of the Central District have kind of come to the rescue of that restaurant owner, they did the same thing here, in that what they were trying to make something better for their community.
Right, because you can just ignore something that's happening in your neighborhood so long as it, if that person walks past your house and isn't coming back for you, you can just ignore it and just let it be someone else's problem. But I think that, part of the site's agenda is to encourage community and conversation, and that's an extreme example of doing that.
All right, well, let's go on. In Seattle crime, a man was robbed at gunpoint outside of the Madison Park's Seattle Tennis Club, and this I thought was really kind of interesting, and maybe it's some kind of lesson to us all. This is from the police report. The man pulled out a Beretta-style handgun, I have no idea what that is, and told the victims, "Give me everything." And one of the victims told the suspect to relax, a police report says, and the suspect responded by shoving the gun into the victim's cheek, cutting the victim's face. So basically the lesson is, don't get smart with the guy with the gun. Is that it?
I don't know. It's a tough situation to be in. I definitely wouldn't taunt someone with a gun, but I'm also not a tough guy, so.
Well,
it's probably good advice.
Yeah, really. I mean, how can you be tough when a guy's got a gun and you've got a shirt?
But at the same time, when you're put in that spot, I think people have no idea how they'd react.
Yeah.
And maybe it's worthwhile to think about how would you respond.
Yeah. What is a Beretta-style handgun? Do you know?
No.
I don't. Okay, well, let's move on to something else. Suspects arrested after shots fired near the Garfield Community Center. And this, again, the community got itself involved. Okay, again, the Garfield Community Center, basically it's an area where kids play. So let's go to the first comment. And it said, after all these shootings, please tell me there is a security camera on that lot. My kids play there. We're on that sports field. Jesus, is there any security cam video surveillance from the community center of that parking lot? And then there's Tom. I guess they're asking you. And here's comes the public response. It says my husband and I were there with our little girl playing at the park and witnessed the event. Talking to cops afterward, we were told that they can't put cameras up there because of all of the fuss of the security cameras when they were installed at Cal Anderson Park on Capitol Hill. And then another response was that it seems like that's a lame excuse. And I gotta tell you, the no cameras response there seems to me a lame excuse.
Well, this was I actually wrote a story about that for Real Change a long time ago when they were discussing those cameras. And there are a lot of studies about what happens in an over-surveilled society that show that it stops being a deterrent very quickly.
Oh, really?
And that's the argument against it by the ACLU, which is very active in preventing cameras. So that's the larger picture. But when it's the playground that your child plays on, I'm sure it seems very silly. You're like, no, I want anything possible to keep guns away from that playground. And that's also a completely reasonable response. So it's an interesting debate, the camera one, I think.
Tom, we're going to take a very short break. We're very fortunate to have with us right here on Community Blog TV, Tom Fucaloro, who is basically he writes, he makes sure that everything is reported upon there for the Central District News. If you live in the Central District, you've got to read this publication, centraldistrictnews.com. If you're driving through the Central District and you may want to stop there at a restaurant or may want to just learn about what's going on in the community, go to centraldistrictnews.com. If you're thinking about moving there, man, this is the thing to do, to go to centraldistrictnews.com, and you're going to get a little bit of a flavor for the neighborhood. I think I live in the Beacon Hill area, and I'm very fortunate to be able to have a blog of this kind in my area, and I also read the centraldistrictnews.com too, because I don't live very far away. I can go over and I can find all sorts of plant sales that are something that are pretty exciting for me as well. Let's get back to the news though. The Seattle Police Department patrol car was pursuing a stolen vehicle, crashes at 12th and Yesler. And here's the interesting thing I thought about this, because crashes happen. But it was a Twitter that seemed to be the thing that kind of pushed forward the news to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, someone said something on Twitter, why is this intersection shut down? And I thought, well, I have no idea. So I called up the police and asked them, on behalf of this person, kind of because I was curious then, and it ended up being kind of interesting story. Sometimes it's, oh, there's a fender bender, but this one, oh, a cop was pursuing a stolen vehicle which sped through an intersection. The cop followed, and another car hit the cop car, and the stolen vehicle got away, and no one was hurt, luckily. But since there was a cop car involved, they shut down the whole thing and investigated, because they always do that.
To your point, though, of a couple of stories ago, because of the public involvement, because of the public itself asking questions, they were able to maybe avoid the area, or they were able to understand it better. And it's Twitter, it's the blogs. You're doing a community service while you're performing a business at the same time.
I hope so.
Yes, all right, so good deal. All right, so we've talked about all of this crime, and so now we get to talk about something else. Following budget cuts, the East and West precincts now share a crime prevention coordinator. So do the public in the Central District area believe that the police has abandoned them?
I guess you'd have to go person by person. I don't know if they would say the police have abandoned them any more than they ever have. But the crime prevention coordinators were very popular because among people who want to take an active role in the community policing where they live, these people are very helpful in getting things like block watches set up, and getting the National Night Out going where you live, and getting information about things that are not big enough to call 911 about, but are problems, and they kind of can deal with those issues, like chronic nuisance, or if you're concerned about a certain house or something, these coordinators can take efforts that a patrol officer.
So instead of police abandonment, this is a direct result of the economic downturn, and where there was a good relationship in many ways between the public and the police.
Right, and now this person is stretched really thin. Before, Fran Taylor, I don't know how to say his last name. He was only in charge of the downtown business district, basically, and now he's doing Queen Anne, downtown, Capitol Hill, and Central District, kind of.
Oh, so what's going to end up happening is that because of him being stretched too thin, he's not going to be able to do nearly as good a job probably as what he wants to do, and then the public's going to start to complain, and that's probably pretty easy to predict.
We'll see. We'll see. I don't want. I hope that everything is just fine, but we'll see. I mean, there's definitely fewer people doing crime prevention, coordinating within the city.
Something else that's very important to a community, regardless of where it is the schools. And here's something from the Seattle Times, but there were more details about the Garfield athletic director firing. And I think lots of people know the story there about how he was fired. And what I felt like was the comments were interesting. And so let's go to the first comment here. And it was shame. The AD is scum. Why in the heck would he let ineligible players play? And then they go on. So let's come back. Let's go to the next one. The next one says, nope, the shame is that the AD is taking the fall for Howard, who happens to be the principal there, who is the scum. The AD is not scum. I would trust him with my life and my kids. Okay, who's the scum here?
I don't know if someone has to be the scum.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
There's clearly there are problems, or there have been problems at Garfield.
Yeah, if the athletic director was giving fake grades for star players, that's clearly not right, and it's against the rules.
At the same point in time, this was a class that was set up for a star player and maybe a couple of others. If you're the principal of the school, how do you not know that there's a class in your school?
I think that there may be an investigation into that. I don't know. That's definitely something worth looking into.
So again,
and it's definitely a question people have.
There you are. So your commenters had both sides of that, and so I suspect you're probably going to be covering this again.
Right. Or I guess the other side is maybe the principal did know, and that's why it got found out, because it came to light at the beginning of the year. So, and now they're trying to right that situation by giving these players a chance to actually take the Spanish class that they were given the credit for,
Yeah,
so that they can go on to college and such. And the principal is taking the stance that the school has done a disservice to the students. I think some of the commentators in the press are less forgiving of the students' role in taking a fake class, but I don't know. I was in high school and I would have taken.
You would have taken a fake class too.
Yeah, well, if do you want to take the hard class or the really easy class? You get the same grades. Like, easy?
Yeah, there you are. So then it sounds like the principal is right that the school has done a disservice, though, to the students.
Right.
All right, but a couple of months ago, something else that we covered was Washington Hall, and we get to come back to Washington Hall. A site-specific performance, Titan Aram, taking over Washington Hall. Tell us about this.
It sounds, they have a really exciting press release. They use lots of really exciting words in it, but it's a surrealist dance that they've apparently been working on for a very long time, or at least months, that is somehow, they say site-specific, but they don't really go into how that's going to work out.
Yeah, what does that mean?
But they reference, the history of the hall and the renovation of it, and the dance is somehow based around that idea. And I'm guessing maybe there's not I have no idea. Their specifics are not entirely there, so I'm kind of interested to see what it turns out to look like. There's a review from Seattle Times of an excerpt that was performed at Velocity Dance Center, and it sounded exciting.
Well, so for sure, we're going to be able to read more about it in the Central District News.
Oh, of course.
Also, the Goodbye Pratt mural at the Thompson's Point of View. Wow. This is unfortunate because this was quite a mural.
Yeah, but there's very little of it left because it kept getting tagged, and so whole blocks of it were getting painted over. And unless you knew it was there, you didn't even really know what it was about. You could see the word Pratt was still visible, but his face was gone.
Yeah.
So at first we didn't know what was going to go in there, but then we found out that it's actually going to be part of this exciting Corridor of Peace public art project, and I think the Madrona Elementary or K-8 school is going to help paint it, and they're talking to an artist about designing it right now, and that's a story I'm working on, but it sounds like it's going to be part of a really cool
All right,
mural project.
Again, something else to follow in Central District News. Yeah. Design team is selected for the Jimi Hendrix Park, and the public can actually find out more and have a say-so in this too, right?
Right.
By the way, let's go ahead and put that up, 6:30, May 17th at the Northwest African American Museum. So tell me about this.
Well, it's a park that it's already, the city designated it, the space as a park, but there's kind of nothing there. And they're working on funding for it, and they've got significant portion of funding, but of course they have a long way to go. But there seems to be a lot of excitement about it, so I'm not too concerned about them finding the money.
So May 17th, 6:30, Northwest African American Museum for the Jimi Hendrix Park. Okay, here's something else that, again, the community is involved with. Help the Garden to Table group build a fence at MLK and Union Plot. And to build a fence, wow, immediately I think, wow, they're trying to keep me out, but you've already got it in the article. It's not a keep-out unfriendly fence, assures the press release. Rather, it's just a fence to keep the Green Plate Special's new garden plot safe. What's that all about?
Green Plate Special is really exciting. It's to make a garden space kind of focused, dedicated to underprivileged children as a space to be able to garden and to be able to eat healthy and learn about healthy cooking. They're hoping to have the ability to teach children how to cook their own vegetables, which they will now know how to grow. So it's a really neat program. And the other cool part is that they're doing it on borrowed space. It's a vacant space, private landowner. There's never been anything built there since the regrade. So there's all these plans, but they're all stalled due to the economy. So they talked to this landowner and they said, yeah, you can use this space. And so now they're turning what was basically nothing, an empty lot, into a really great opportunity for these kids. And I'm really excited about that project.
Oh, well, fantastic. All right, so there was something that was very big that happened in the Central District, and it was the Dennis Kucinich, former member of Congress. He was going to join thousands expected at the May Day March starting in Judkins Park. And then let's go actually to the next slide, because the next slide was about the May Day Parade itself, or the crowd. And here was something interesting that I saw in it. Let's go to the click, because what we've got is forced migration is a result of the global economic crisis. What in general was the Central District's feeling or involvement with this May Day Parade?
Well, it started in the neighborhood, and it was these happen all over the country, and they kind of have a unified message. But Central District having a diverse population, a lot of these civil rights-based movements kind of naturally start there, and there's just a lot of history of starting these kind of events in the neighborhood, which is really exciting. But with Casa Latina around, it's definitely a place where undocumented workers are made visible and on purpose, and that we're trying to work through that injustice. And I like that the Central District is the place where that's happening, because it's.
And it was the place where Dennis Kucinich was happening too.
Yeah.
Well, that was probably the first time you've ever covered him, huh? Locally, anyway.
Yeah, it was. That was kind of a surprise. It was a little last-minute announcement that he was going to be there, and we later find out that he's looking around for a place to run, because Ohio is making, just instead of trying to actually beat him in the polls, in the voting booth, the Republicans in Ohio are just going to gerrymander his district away to non-existence so that he can't keep winning, because he wins in conservative district in Ohio, and they have no idea how to stop it except for this. So he's looking for other places to run if his district does disappear, and he's been looking at Washington, so that's why he's in town.
Wow, here we've done it again. We've got so much show left, and we've only got about a minute to go. I got to get to this. James Court Woonerf Community Meeting. What in the world is a Woonerf? And if we can get it up on the screen, we're going to try, but it's W-O-O-N-E-R-F. It's basically a shared road space concept where the road is too skinny for people walking, people biking, and people driving to all have their own lane. And so you put everyone in the same small spot and say everyone just has to go really slow. And that's not hard for the Hey, that sounds
walkers.
like I-5 to me.
Yeah.
We just need to rename that. Tom, thank you very much for being with us. Strongly encourage you to go to the Central District News. It is your community blog if you live in the Central District. If you don't live in the Central District, then there's so much diversity and so many wonderful things going on there. You should go there. Central District News, right here on Community Blog TV. Tom Fucloro, thank you very much. We'll see you right here next week. Take care.